Tēnā koutou katoa, kia ora tātou, no mai, hai mai. And thank you everybody for being here today. It's great to see so many people up there talking to us. And this is the last meeting before the election. And so it's really good to have local people in the room. Can we please stand for a minute's silence? This isn't a comment about the monarchy and New Zealand or Aotearoa. This is about recognising extraordinary service. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Song now? I think you have to stand again, actually.
We should have sung after catechins.
Oh, well, no, we're going to sing. Okay.
Tato, tato, e, tu tira mai na iwi. Tato, tato, e, why after marvel's danga, me te aroha in the iwi, kia katapatahi, kia katahi ra, tato, tato, e. Tato, tato, e.
Kia ora. It's new for us to sing the last line twice, which is what we should all do, because the silence and the attempts of singing in the back row is trepidatious, you know. So it's still, but we'll get used to it. Thank you, everybody. We probably did it wrong in terms of protocol, and that's my fault. We should have done it straight after the karakia. Of course, we should have done. We're going to start by, and now we're going to start by introducing ourselves. Can start with Lee.
Good morning, here is a board member from Cashmere.
I feel the Tato Kwarao Hangi, Grace Tokuinga, I'm the governance manager here.
Kia ora, it's Carolyn Potter, I'm board chair.
Kia ora, Amy Hart, Community Board Advisor. And just a reminder, this is being live streamed, so if you could just use your mics when you're talking.
Kia ora, Norman Coco, Councillor for Spreydon.
Lorena, Tim Standard on the City Council.
Board of Coco, last year, Recreation Advisor for Spreydon-Cashmere.
Lorena, JCBC Development Advisor for Cashmere.
Thank you, everybody. I was just about to say the live streaming bit, but it's been said for me. Things became slightly more formal. You know, I'm used to cracking jokes and things like this around about now. And when it's live streamed, you've got to look a little bit more official than that. But again, can I just repeat how welcome you are to be here? And it's very nice to see so many people for the last meeting of the board. Okay, apologies. Anybody leaving early today? Well, thank God for that. Declarations of interest, confirmation of previous minutes. I've had a read of them and they seem okay. Thank you, Lee. Any seconder? Tim, thank you. No changes? All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions carried. Declarations of interest. No one going to make large sums of money today? No. Confirmation, oh, sorry, I've done that. Public forum, and we come to it almost instantly. Public forum, and you are in the order that you told us that you'd be coming. So we start off with Jenny Goodman, Chair of the Hoonhay Community Association. Hi, Jenny, it's good to see you.
Yeah, I turned it on for you. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I know, the power.
I'm joined by Daniel. Hey, one of our position members.
Hi, Daniel. You did a great job the other night. Thank you.
We've come this morning because we'd like to take the opportunity to formally present to the board our expression of gratitude for the wonderful support that you have given us, the Heathcote Community Association, over the last 2 years. We just wanted to give you an update on what's happening as the retiring board, and also just to express our thanks. We've continued to run events this year throughout the year. These include community picnic in January, 3 food drives for the Heathcote Food Bank in January, April and July. Our ever popular Easter scavenger hunt in April. We also staged the Love Grace handbag appeal in July for the support of people from affected by family violence. And we've hosted residents meeting in July and September, the last one being very successful last week for candidates in the elections. And during the year, we've successfully lobbied the council for the installation of 2 new park seats in Heathcote Park and the instatement of a large rubbish bin near the Kidney Street playground. So yeah, that's some of the activities that we've done. We've also compiled a business plan, which we have submitted to the Community Facilities Specialty concerning the need for an upgraded facility at 90 Heathcote Road, which we need some. And we actually had a copy of that, which you might like.
Fantastic.
To
Thank you.
distribute to the board. Thank you. We know that the report's been received, the business report's been received, but at the moment, we haven't had any feedback as to whether there is funds available to commence with the work, and also a time frame of if and when it will take. So we sort of like we're working within a vacuum at the moment. We're planning ahead, but we're not sure, if it will come to fruition or whether we'll have to.
We've had to, that we've had an indication where the funds might come from, and you've had no conversation confirming
The only
that.
thing we've had is we've had 3 visits from the project scoping team.
Oh, that's positive. Yeah.
And I understand the engineer came last week, so we would just like, to know which way things are going, if we could. But
You mean before the council changes hands and it all goes down the gurgler?
Just like to know that, what's happening before Christmas, because we do have tenants that we have to give notice to, and the practicalities involved. So, but as I said, we'd like to formally express our thanks to the board for the help and support in the last 2 years, especially by commissioning the feasibility study by Sarah Wiley to promote the need for a community hub, and also the $4,500 discretionary grant which you gave to us so we could build our storage shed to improve our facilities. And as a thank you, we'd like to invite the existing board to an afternoon tea on Sunday the 16th of October at 90 Heathcote Road between 2:30 and 3:30 if you guys can make it as an expression of our thanks. And we'd also like to say our best wishes go to Caroline on her retirement. She's been a tower of strength to our association, and we'll miss her dearly. And we wish the board members standing against success in the election, and look forward to working with you again if you're re-elected. And once again, many thanks from the Heathcote Community Association Committee. We would not have achieved what we have without your support. So thank you.
You're a treasure, Jenny, you're a treasure. Daniel, have you got anything to add?
I just want to add, I agree with everything.
What a good thing.
But I really want to reaffirm that. It's been so encouraging that, the 3 Spreydon, especially, seeing how fiercely you've advocated for us over these last 2 years. You know, how much you've really pushed for retention of the centre. You know, that's been, and times where it's been quite tumultuous for us, you know, to have three of you be kind of really firm in your stance on that. It's been awesome. You know, it's been say a real encouragement and stabilizer for us. And Carolyn especially, you know, I remember last year your submission of the annual plan, you mentioning us specifically in the centre. That was a big moment for us. You know, the fact that you and your position would be fighting for us and talking about how important the centre is for the community, which of course we absolutely agree, but to hear you say it was really moving. And you know, you've done a fantastic job as chair of the board, you know, and
I think we have to, we also have to acknowledge again that Melanie was the one that started the whole thing off, and then she's just, she's the soldier in the, you know. That was a splendid report. The indication of how much work you're doing is a splendid thing to say. It's an example too. We've got great residents association. We had Spreydon meeting last night. It was just great to hear from them, and that Sonia, the work, the hard work that they do. And it was just great to hear from you. I said last night, and I mean this board is useless unless there's an indication of community support and action. If the community doesn't act on things and doesn't provide support, whatever the board says is just hot air. We are based on the community. We are thick with the community. And if the community says something, it's much more powerful than whatever we say, truly. That's not an exaggeration. You've done wonders with the Hoon Community Association and terrific work together. And Daniel, someone young. Or youngish. Good God. I would say more, but we have got 7 deputations of one kind or another today. We've got, including public forum. So so we'd be wasting your time to say more. But we will follow up and make a friendly phone call, because we don't want to nag them, and say, we know you're working on the Hoon Hay. Is there any indication as to time frame, because they've got tenants to give notice to? Something soft and gentle. What do you reckon? Yeah. So
That would be great. We've
Yeah.
got quite full scale of events coming up until Christmas.
oh my giddy aunt, have you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'll give you my private email. Mustn't use it too often. I intend to lie around on the south of France, you know. Thank you very much. Yeah. And we've got Rebecca Finch. Where's Rebecca? Hi, Rebecca. I couldn't see you. It wasn't that my eye went over the top. You're welcome to come up. You're going to be modest in the back row. Okay. Okay. Good to see you both. Guy, and I should have said it before, if we can keep sort of to time, because we've got 7 deputations, it would be great. Thank you very much. Yeah.
There's a small slideshow, but Kia ora, Rebecca Kapuinga. I'm here on behalf of a Simeon Park community group. Keith was very important in getting the group starting, so I'm sorry he's not up here. But Keith is a bit of a conduit with over the fence chats in our community, and I got chatting to Keith and a few other people last year, and we decided to get together and do something in the community local park.
That's wonderful. When you're ready, let the staff know so that we can keep in touch and know that you're around, you know, when you're ready, you know. The staff here at the office, if you just give them contact details, so it's another community group we know about.
Okay.
You know, just when you're ready, you don't even need to do it. It's your business. But if you want to, if you want to give us the contact person that you think is the most appropriate, need not necessarily be the front person. That's up to you. That would be great. Thank you.
So there's 2 other members that can't be here. One is Kiara, she's got a young family on Howard Street, and Sheila, who's unwell today. So we're sort of core group, and then in our Facebook page, we've tried to get a few more people involved, and we've got 24 on that group. So this picture here was our first community planting event, which we did with the council and Polly, and Helen came along, and that was a nice planting event of around, oh, hang on, I'll get back to my notes. Yeah. So we also planted 800 spring bulbs in association with the school as well. It's some school, did you know?
Yeah, sure, I'm Joe.
We've never heard of her.
No. Community liaison at Eddington Te Kura Taumata. From today, no longer the board chair. So like you, resigning, but I'm staying on as community liaison, so I'll still be here.
We remain all powerful behind the scenes. Yeah. Go ahead.
So Joe and I have had a few meetings about what the school and we would like to see in the park. And the third event that we've had is last Friday, we planted 12 by just in front of that area. So
Wonderful.
our initial hopes, part of our initial group hopes were to begin planting some kai in the area. I met with Eddington Farm and I've also been over to Richmond Community Hub. But sadly, our park is on a dump site. So we haven't been able to do that this year because we need to do soil testing before we can start with anything like that. But Holly's been wonderful to work with, and we can go to site 2 kids. Yeah, so that's just a picture of those 3 things that we've done, and yeah, there's lots of community interest in planting natives in the park. So.
Would it be okay with your board, with your people, sorry, if the new board puts these photographs in its report to council? We report to council on community activities once a month. And I'm sorry, I must have just slipped by me this. And it's terrific seeing this work. And I'd like to be able to say to the new board, recommend to the new board that they might want to include this in their first report.
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds like it'd be good for us.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be good, I think, for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been to the community through Facebook, school, and through the Eddington Network Times paper to get some feedback. And basically on slide 3, community concerns, it's up there. So the park doesn't seem to be used much because it doesn't feel safe, it feels drab and uncared for, the seating's kind of uncomfortable and not very social. The park itself has a thick layer of bark and gets quite heavy and hard to walk through in the winter time. Yeah, so we came up with some ideas for what we want to do next from that feedback, and that's the next slide. So things we'd like to do ourselves, but we might need a little help with. So we're hoping to get a bookmark for the park. That was one of the feedback things that we thought would be easy to do, and thank you to Melanie. We've been in contact with the social housing that's right next door, and we hope to recycle some of the elements from there to incorporate into our park. We're definitely getting the letterboxes and maybe a few other materials. And I are going there this afternoon to pick them up. So it was quick. So thank you very much. The crews were helpful. But they also wanted the materials picked up quickly, so we're going to do that. So we may need help from the council to install those, or we're hoping to have some sort of overall plan for the park, going through time. So in recycling the materials, we kind of want to encourage a sense of connection through history. I know Avery House are doing a similar thing. They have funding from the council, and local people are recycling elements from the red zone, connecting with history, creating those connections for people to feel like they belong.
That natural play is very much what this board has been looking at recently. Natural play, including the planting of trees and things to climb and things to jump on.
Yeah,
great, excellent.
In our park as well. We want feedback from you today or over time about whether we're allowed to hang a rope swing from a tree and what the rules are around it. We want to continue to work with Holly to plant more bulbs next season. I think we've got 2,000 more bulbs planned next season to increase our no-mow zones and shade spaces for native trees. So those are things that we can do ourselves. We may have a community picnic, and again, Keith had a wonderful idea of having a dog dress-up party. So that was really good. Many people walk their dogs in it.
Yeah.
So things we'd like help with soon. I wrote immediately, but that's probably a bit. So things we're hoping the council can help us with. More lighting. There's a woman that walks down my street in the winter at about 5:30 with her 2 kids and goes and plays in the park.
Yeah, we just noticed that immigrant families have different eating and playing timetables to the traditional European families, and often eat their big meal at 4 o'clock and then play in the evening. And our parks aren't set up for that kind of culture. There's not, in the winter it's dark and cold. So just thinking about our multicultural community and like trying to have a rethink about how our parks work for that community.
I think you have to think about the birds too. You know, there's a balance, isn't there? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really, and I put that in here. So we're hoping for a little bit of lighting, perhaps on the Willard Street to Simeon Street pathway. There's one right there, but a lot more people are biking through there. And the path leading into the school, just one maybe near the park, but we don't need to be too specific right now. And we want it to be sustainable and not interfere with the natural light dark cycle of nature. How am I going for time?
You're over, but just belt through it.
Belt through it, okay.
Yeah.
We want better seating, more communal model, incorporating some of the ideas from Tront, which they've used in the city. Community risks engagement and facing each other as pictured.
Yes.
So I think that called Mokahi may not work in our park, but we could incorporate those ideals of Ngaitahu. We want an upgrade to the current site to include a Te Reo Māori reo name for the park. I think you have a process for that already, so we'd like to request that. And the woman I met there yesterday wants the dogs under control sign reinstated, which seems to have fallen off. So we want a new rubbish bin, just to give us, and soccer holes. So those are the things that we were hoping to get done quickly.
We've been asking, we've been asking for a year about the Te Reo Māori names and the renaming of some things in our board. We've been asking for exactly that for a year. We're getting quite frustrated about it.
So
But
add our voice to it.
yes, which is great. And I think that these can be forwarded to the appropriate staff in council. You may not get them immediately, but we can certainly say this group is underway, specifically give them contact details and say these are the things they're looking at. These are the things all the groups are looking at. There may be some budget reasons for delaying one or two of them and promoting the others, but we certainly will, this board, I'm sure, in its new form, will support you, and we will see where we get to in the next time round. So that's what will happen, I think, is that we'll forward it to the appropriate staff member to see for comment and ask them how we can support you in furthering your aims.
So we're going to finish the we've got half the page there.
There you go. Sorry.
Yep.
Yep.
Sorry.
So there's other things that we hope fix in the longer term is for a pathway down the back of the park, something like the orange line and slide 6, I think it is.
Mm.
Scooters for children, a template for native planting along that pathway, mobility, people with mobility issues, they'll have a loop walk that they can then do around the park. And future hopes for like the treasure trail with these litter boxes that we've got from the next door neighbour property. For the we hope to get some kai elements in there, like we'd really like that soil tested. I also kind of want it tested for the native plantings that we're doing, because if it's highly toxic, I don't want to kill the birds off. We're going to be planting edible trees for the birds, so that's something we're really keen on. And we'd like the surface of the park to be upgraded, because it is a permeable surface. Yeah. And things we'd like help with later is an upgrade.
Okay.
Three pictures.
This is big money,
Yes.
and that, because that means you have to go on our annual plan
Yes.
and our long-term plan. That means we have to be really professional about the way we develop this request.
Yes.
And so we'd expect you to be back in with staff and talking about it. This is a start.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we have noted that as well. And so, and now, is there any other people want to make a comment? Yeah.
It is one of the most underutilized parks. It's 10,000 square meters, and then we're somewhere around that. It's a huge park. Just, I know you're working with Joe and you're working with Addington Farm. I just know I mention his name regularly, but Michael Reynolds, just because the way he worked with the council, I know you work with Holly, but he had to do a master plan and prioritise. So it might help you in the long term if you do a bit of a master plan and prioritise what's your wish list, and that would really help us as well.
We've got the wish list. It's the priority we need.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm in awe of what you're doing and your vision. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
I agree as well. Pretty underutilized, and it would be wonderful if some of those features to be included. I think that developing a coherent plan sounds like a really key part of what you're asking for.
Yeah.
And I also wonder if it would be worth coming back to the board quite soon after the election, with the board, just to kind of restate and refresh that vision.
I think in this instance, you're absolutely right, because we'll have 3 new board members from the Heathcote ward, and you will want to be impressing upon them. This board has discussed your park. It is underutilised. There's a balance between SIPTED, which is preventing a park being having hiding places for attack, and adventure. And I think sometimes we haven't got the balance right. And if you want a park for adventure with trees that people can hide behind and things, you don't have lights in them to encourage people to go there after dark. You say to people, this park is off limits after dark, because you can't have trees for kids to hide behind and have people tramping through a park, going through a park at night when there's places to hide behind. So there's a balance between prevention of crime and what you want to use if you want to have an adventure park. And you have to think carefully about it, you know. We've been discussing that because we don't think you can provide a vastly adventurous park and be perfectly terrific about SIPTED, which requires hedges to be trimmed back and trees to be trimmed back, etc. Do you see what I mean? So you have to think about the use of the park at night. And I think it's probably a professional, expert advice. But anyway, so prioritise. Yeah. And thank you very, Tim.
Two quick things. In the short term, we have an off the ground fund. So if you need small funds, it's a really easy way to go. So that's a good start. Secondly, for the board, for the new board, before we kind of get, there are a whole lot of parts and support that only have an amount of funds. So we need Al Hardy, this Southern Area Manager, to give us a really good briefing, because we are going to be inheriting Heathcote, which we don't know that much about, and their needs and their issues. So I think we've got to be really kind of careful about.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So, yeah, but in terms of actually outstanding, and we do want to support.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep, Mel.
Is it council staff going to check the soil, for contaminants?
Holly said that it's quite a process. And
Yeah,
it
it is.
really needs funding for that. He can actually do the tests.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. In other words, we have to prioritise again.
Yeah, and I also know that the council housing right next door, they've just started a retreat. It's a lead contaminated, but that might be from the paint ones.
Oh, it's interesting, isn't it? Rebecca, though, you're a very imaginative person and you're very thoughtful about the community. So thank you, and Joe, of course, but that goes without saying. So thank you very much for the thoughts that you've had, and I wish you luck in the hard work to come. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you just want to sort of formally
Yeah.
ask the board's agreement on that?
Oh, we've generally asked for a discussion with staff about prioritising, knowing that not all of that's going to arrive in one bit. We've asked for leeway in the visits to boards. Generally speaking, we don't let them visit the board twice in 6 months, you know, but some leeway on this because the new board needs to meet them, and support for the prioritising discussion. In other words, staff support for the prioritising discussion before it comes back to the board for looking at for the annual plan. Anything else, generally speaking? Okay, done.
So, sorry, just 1 second. So you're just wanting to refer the issues raised in the presentation to staff for advice, and also request that staff work with the group to prioritize their projects.
Yeah,
And
particularly
that's-
in the area of adventure park versus city.
Yeah,
Could we also give the presentation from staff with regards to the issues of 3 wards?
with the what? Sorry.
That's too big.
3 wards?
I'm not going to attach that to this, Tim. Let's bring it up later because that's big, you know, and maybe 3 wards have to be here.
It's not necessary.
Yeah, I would have thought so too, yeah. Okay, public forum, Longhurst Terrace and Scarf Reserve. And we've got Mr. John L. of obvious descent.
Correct.
Hello. Hello, John. Welcome. We had,
Thanks for letting me have the opportunity to speak to you.
no, it's great, but we have to be reasonably brief. Yeah.
That's the problem, isn't it, Amy? Because I've got 3 pages of notes and. So
Oh, my goodness.
I've given Amy 2 copies, which she can print off and maybe give.
Yep, definitely.
So I will cut to the chase.
Yeah.
My main concern is that I have been banging my head up against council for years in trying to look after Scarf Place. I have nothing to do with Longhurst Terrace, so those notes need to change. I'm not interested in Longhurst Terrace. Scarf Place is right next door to our project.
Is that what you're interested in? Scarf Place?
Reserve.
Okay, Scarf Place Reserve?
Yep.
Gotcha.
It was, that's my understanding. Built, it was Scarf Place Reserve.
Okay.
But as I've just recently found out, with the official information request, council never actually designated a title to it. So it was just a pocket of land given to council, taken by council, in the process of the whole subject.
It's interesting.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is interesting.
Yeah.
I banged my head up against council to try and get maintenance of this reserve. We have done just about all the maintenance for years and years and years.
How long, Mr. L? How long?
Since we built 1995.
So since 1995, the maintenance of the park has almost entirely been down to you.
Almost.
Half of it.
Yep.
And how often do you see council working on this over the years?
Never.
Never. Okay.
The only person you ever see is a contractor that flies in on the top, roll the photographs, we'll skip through, this is about signage.
Yeah.
So if we flip through the photographs, do that. And then I can just keep going. This is all that signage, and it all is part and parcel of the whole keep going. There, that's Scarf Place, okay? That's the end of the cul-de-sac. To the right is the driveway, access to 2 properties. To the left is my place. In the centre is the reserve.
Gotcha.
There's a flat area there and amongst the trees. And the reserve slopes off down to our boundary.
And as far as you know, it's got no official name.
It's never had an official name.
Right.
And so the purpose of me being here is to, 1, get it officially recognised as the Scarf Place Reserve. That's the first thing. Second thing, linked with that is just the most modest of increase in money to look after the damn place. because we're in our mid-70s. We're not going to be able to carry on forever to the extent of the work that we do. I contacted Tim in the end and asked him to meet me there. So he has a first-hand knowledge of what I'm talking about. And it's, if you flip to the next photograph.
Just hold on.
Yeah.
The new board does a bus trip right at the beginning of its term, and they take the bus to important places in the ward. I'm thinking, Tim, that we could add this to the list for the new board to do its tour. So
Well, I would support that because you know, my wife's a fanatic gardener. I'm not so much, but she has kept a lot of the ladder spur track along our boundary. The planting of grass. It really is admired by all walkers.
So hang on, the Scarf Place Reserve was half of that's maintained by you, and that reserve has never had official name. Done. Right, finish that. The next bit is your wife maintains what?
The lattice spur track.
The lattice spur track. Gotcha.
Which runs past our property.
Right.
So you,
Yeah.
explained it,
Yeah.
but
That's fine. Yeah. Lattice spur track will do.
Track runs up there like that, and the scarf, the reserve is in here like this, and it comes
So
down.
lattice spur track also is not appropriately maintained and is dependent on your
Well,
wife.
it's probably maintained the same as any other walking
Right,
track.
right.
In that effect, twice a year, contractors come through with scrub cutters, weed eaters, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, the bumblebees, and they roar through and they just chop the grass about a metre wide. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing more.
But that is
Same
maintained
happens-
twice a year, lattice spur track. In between times, your wife is the one that maintains it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's our choice, I guess, because we planted the edges, hedge in between private property, geraniums and things like that. So it really is quite a picture. And we keep our garden pretty sharp as well. So it's more about getting the commitment from council to look after this reserve, at least the top part, in terms of you flip them.
So Scarf Reserve is your main concern.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can see how it gets overgrown. The mower can only shoot in off the end of Scarf Place and go so far in, and then it's overgrown. It's overgrown by these ridiculous flax bushes. And now we've got this weed coming up through it. What do they call the passion fruits? So there's no weed control. I lodged those things online with council. Said the due course the contractor would come and attend to it. Nobody from it.
Okay. And this is an officially recognised walking track? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I know it because I walk in the dog park sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's my main concern.
Yeah.
Is that this area of land is not being, and it wouldn't need much. It just needs somebody to come in, chop back the flax bushes, tidy up all the fronds off the that sort of stuff, and deal to the noxious weeds.
Okay.
Now, I since speaking to Tim, Holly Whittaker, she came out and she saw me on the site. So she is also now familiar with the situation, but she can't do anything because it has to come.
Yeah.
Further up. Part and parcel of the whole problem too that I see, and I would urge you all to have a look at the photographs of the one I've written about signage. Signage that council use is absolutely atrocious. It is shocking. It means nothing. There's this and that. There's pictographs, there's words, there's God knows
You have to be more specific if we're going to explain this.
what's here.
Yeah, okay.
But I didn't want to overrun my time.
Yeah.
If you're going to-
Yeah.
if you get me to read.
No, but in what way is it not specific?
Well, look, let's.
Yeah, I know, but we need, just tell me one example.
Right. On Victoria Park Road, there are signs leading up to Victoria Park. There are two signs. One is in written, telling people to pick up dog litter, plus a pictograph. I call them a pictograph. Those are
Yeah.
signs. Another is a pictograph indicating dogs should be kept on lead, and words saying that dogs should be kept on leads. So you get words and pictograph. And then at the Harry L walkway sign, there's a walkway emblem, pictograph, right? A pictograph showing dogs to be kept on the lead. And then you go up to the top gate of the dog exercise area. It's a new sign and it's a new gate because somebody chopped down a plantation of pine trees. And the words say, are saying private land. If it's land, why then is there access? And then the words under that state access to Harry L Drive. And there's a pictograph saying indicating dogs should be kept on the lead. Then you go down to the lower gate. The sign says words stating access to Scarf Place. Well, actually, main access is out to Longwood Stewart.
Hang on. We're not going to be able to deal with this here today. You've got an objection to pictographs saying, which say what the words say, and so it's repetitive. And also you've got inaccuracies. We have got this here. Yeah, I know.
Signage all over the place.
I know. I'm not sure that we're going to change council's signage policy today, but I do understand what you're saying. We all understand why there's pictographs and words, because some people haven't got English as the first language, and it's more accessible for some people. And that's why it is duplicated. And I understand your frustration. I think dealing with the inaccuracies is more important, and that's overt in here. And the inconsistencies. Okay, we'll make a note of that as well. And when we pass it on. Now, I'm just going to ask the board if they've got any comments or questions.
I've got one other point to make.
Yeah.
This is a walking track. That is the Latticeburg track.
Yeah.
That goes all the way from Longwood to.
Yeah.
It's a walking track.
Yeah.
But you get idiots on mountain bikes come roaring down it. And they're a menace and they're a danger and they're a health and safety.
We may have to have a sign and a pictograph. No mountain bikes.
We need more than a sign. We
Yeah.
actually need a barrier to prevent bikes actually getting access, because whatever pictograph you put up, they ignore it.
Okay. We're going to make a note of that as well. I don't know. I don't know that area, whether it's mountain biking appropriate or not. I don't know. I can't comment on that, but we'll ask staff to look at it. It's quite complex, this that you've discussed. So I'm glad I suggested that the bus go up there and have a look.
Just a question.
Yeah.
Have you made a customer service request to
Yes,
the council?
yes.
Great.
Yes.
And you've got numbers?
Hundreds, in fact.
And you've got the numbers, but can you send?
Probably I've deleted a lot of them there, because I've set them.
So the next time you,
They might know the
because
name.
we can chase that here. So if you send that information to Amy, then we will follow that up as well. And it just adds to that.
Yeah, it does. But this is
I don't think I've done them with regards to the cyclists.
doesn't matter.
But anyway,
But if you have an occasion where you do a snap send solve or whatever,
yeah.
and you do a repeat and you've never got a reply, come to the staff here. Okay, we understand the issues here, and I'll get Amy just to say what she reckons we've said. Just briefly, we're looking mostly at Scarf Place.
Yeah.
The naming of Scarf Place, the lack of the lack of maintenance of the path through Scarf Place in terms of overground and invasive plants.
Yeah, so just to comment that the council is in the process of reviewing the naming policy for parks. So they're not renaming any parks till that new policy is in place. But what you could ask for is an update on where that policy
Yeah,
is at.
because it's been going forever.
Yeah,
Well, I think I want to make it clear that it's not so much the name, it's the fact that it has been classified for maintenance purposes. It's something to do with the Longhurst track, which has no resemblance to what it is.
No, we understand it's that patch of land next door to your house
Yes.
called, and it should be called Scarf Place, but it's not. And we understand that, we do. Yeah, so we're going to pick those 3 main points up, including the naming of the place, which is important to you. I don't know how that will go, but
It's not as important. as the
Maintenance.
side.
We understand that.
Because
We understand.
We were told that because it was given this Longhurst track,
Mm.
that it was that underpinned the main.
Okay,
Next
No.
to zero.
we've understood that. We have honestly understood that. Is there anybody else who's got something urgent to say?
Very briefly.
No, not you. You. Go.
I just want to say, I think it would be remiss if we didn't say thank you for the work you put in
No,
that area.
We're not worried about that. We're not worried.
Let him say it though, because it goes in the minutes and you become famous. Thank you. I think that's entirely right. And we do thank you for that. All those years. Go.
No, I thank you for the tenor of what you've said today, but there would be a school of thought that you would tackle the noxious weeds and let some native bush regenerate. I just wanted to your thoughts on that, John. There would be a school of thought to say, let the bush regenerate, tackle the noxious weeds, and let it, have some natives grow up in there. So just wanted to.
What's the thought that would say, leave the noxious weeds alone?
No, tackle the noxious weeds and let some native bush regenerate and put some more natives in there. Just wanted to ask your thoughts on that, John.
I don't disagree. There are natives there. We planted a lot of the natives in the reserve. And it's out of our own money. I spent hundreds of dollars on weed control, spraying, and goodness knows what. But
We ignore
shit
that.
like that to control it.
Okay. No,
I
I
have a
understand.
problem,
Yeah,
but
I
I don't
understand
think that I should be trying to climb up and make dripping down passion fruit or chopping them down.
We shouldn't have asked that question. We don't need to know about weed control.
Yes, you should.
No, not spraying. We didn't hear it. I am really one quick one. We're going to be here forever.
The key here is actually the reserve status.
Yeah.
It's a reserve, the maintenance goes up. So the whole thing, the number one thing
Yeah.
here is the recognition. So it's not a name change, it's the status of the reserve. So
Excellent
we can
point.
concentrate on that, that's number one. And then let's worry about the rest of it. The
Yeah.
science.
Yeah. Tim, that's it, isn't it? Oh, Tim, that was a very good point you made there, and I didn't pick it up, and thank you for saying that. It's a pleasure to have met you. Are you a direct descendant of Harry?
Yeah, he was my great aunt.
Okay.
You all of those.
Yeah, it's very good to have met you after all this time and to know how much work that you've done, and thank you for coming to see
Well, I
us.
could suggest that you name the John and Janet Reserve.
Yeah. Thank you. That's our,
yeah. Can I just confirm what you want? Am I able to read
Amy's
that
so
out?
unreasonable. She wants me to confirm what we've just said. I can't remember. Yeah.
So what I have.
Hang on, Tim. Yeah.
What?
Oh, I'm Tim. Well, I'm you.
Hang on, guys. We need to go on.
So just wrapping up that last one. What I have that you're wanting to request is staff advice on whether it's possible to maintain, well, what's known as Scarf Place Reserve to a higher standard, and also advice on when the naming policy is going to be reviewed.
The thing that's missing is it's the recognition that it is a reserve. At the moment, it is connected to the walkway, and there's no recognition whatsoever
That it's a reserve, yeah. And so we need that point made.
That's the number one.
Yeah, that's the number one point.
I guess,
And,
yeah. I guess the first step in that, though, would just be getting staff to confirm that that's the case. So asking for staff advice on what the classification is, and then
Clarify the
take it,
status.
yeah.
And there would have to be something in the historical record that it was Scarf Place or that it was considered to be staff place for it to last through 3 generations
Well,
since then.
The piece of land would have been given as part of the development.
Yeah.
And so the developer may have called it something, but connected it to the walkway.
Yeah.
So that's the confusion. So,
Yeah.
and it didn't become a confusion until years later when, you know, it's not a reserve, so
Yeah.
it's the standard maintenance of the park.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that clarifies that.
Okay. Thank you very much. We've got that.
Yeah.
We will say that there's a confusion around the signage. But I don't think we can address that.
No, well, we'll
No.
have to
Yeah.
start with that.
Yeah. Okay. So that, oh no, we've still got another public forum too. Bronwyn McClellan and Alice Shanks. And you're entirely welcome too. And if you want to come up as well, by all means.
We have a PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah.
People are so well organised, aren't they?
Well, Alice is. What will?
Hang on, could you
Sorry.
introduce yourselves,
Oh,
please?
sorry, I'm
Yeah.
Bronwyn McKinnon. This is Alice Shanks and
Kathleen Gallagher? Hi, Kathleen. Go ahead. And we can see, we can now identify where you're linked up. Karitani Valley River Group. See, that's great. I didn't know you existed. Thank you for coming. Go ahead.
Wonderful. What we are hoping for is the sycamores to be fully removed from Waihoro Reserve in the park. So there has been some work done, but the trees are just so prolific. So I've got some photos of.
Can we have the next?
Mhm.
So I'll pass these photos. These are the sycamores. And what they do is they just grow so quickly and shade out. the canopy.
We know about sycamores, yeah.
Absolutely. So it's. we just have
God,
to
they're
explore it.
terrible.
We need to be fully eradicated.
And we'll have a report from the council, tell you that's what we need to do.
Yeah, from Nicholas Head, the senior ecologist, he did walk through the park. It is a special place because of the different levels of. So,
Sorry, where does it refer to, Nicholas?
She-
Oh, that's him there, the senior ecologist, right. We all understand this. I read an article the other day about the worth of sycamores, and then it was referenced at the end saying that they are a weed in certain circumstances. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it that someone actually plants the things. They're so frightening. 2020, the senior ecologist said this, and we've had no traffic on this at all since then, Alice?
I know this is for Purau.
Oh, Purau, sorry, specifically for Purau, but it's the same in,
He did a report on Purau Reserve before the problem started,
yeah,
and this is what he said needed to happen.
yeah,
Now, if you go to the next slide, they have taken out 5 sycamores, but there's a lot more sycamores
Yeah.
in Purau Reserve. And Bronwyn, I'm speaking to you.
yes, no, that's.
I mean, the problem is they're planting, and the trees are dying because there's not enough light and sun. So it's kind of, sycamores have to happen first.
Remove them.
Yeah.
Yes, we probably lost between 25 to 30% of our plantings last year, just because, as you can see with the photos, it just becomes so dehydrated and shaded that they can't survive in those conditions, the native plantings.
I want to have a discussion about this. I'm on the board. Tim, I want you to tell me what you think in terms of the staff budget. What likelihood we are going to have for staff to carry out a mass slaughter in there on sycamores?
Well, I love it, but I think that's what we need to get in front of Al with and look at all the areas. But it would be really good to pick on one area, whether it's Purau or whatever it is, and do it right.
Because the same thing, I mean, Alice, this is a war that Alice has been fighting for years
But
and been pilloried
what
for it.
we've been doing is we attack a bit and we move and So we've got to take one, and this is why we get with the new board to give that staff, say, look, let's just get one completely finished. Then we don't have to keep spending money going back to these guys, and then get the next one. So we've got to change our strategy.
So how would you put this? And I'm just asking for advice from the board here. How would we put this? Do we ask the new board to have a look at this issue and prioritise? Or do we ask for staff report to the new board next year on sycamores, both in Pure Ale and in Earnley Reserve?
Really about sycamore eradication and the reserve.
Because we're not going to get this response from our request. What we need is the new board to address the issue. So in other words, should we recommend to the new board, this is what the process I think we should be doing, but I need some help. Shall we recommend to the new board that they ask for advice on sycamores, specifically in Earnley and Pure Ale, which is the issue that's come before us, not for the first time, on several occasions. And Alice has been on the receiving end of abuse on taking out sycamores as well. Well, I have. So yeah.
The board could ask for a briefing from park staff on the removal of sycamores, and then you can have a proper conversation about it, rather than trying to put something into a resolution without enough information.
It doesn't need to be a resolution. We just want, I just want
So
some
we're
action.
asking for a briefing.
Yeah, a briefing. Ignore the fact it's a new
And you can
board.
invite the community to come and be part of the conversation, so that it's
What probably has to come was Bromwell's frustration, but also the fact that this was in the paper. They're taking all the sycamore, the council's paying $753,000 tax sycamores out of Pitchen Bay. So the council obviously acknowledges that sycamores are a problem, and they also did it systematically, right? So they took out the big trees, and then they did 7 years of control of all the seedlings that came up, and with community help as well. So next slide. So this is another example up at Rakai Gorge. It's a public walkway on private land. It was covered in sycamores that had come into a local homestead and moved about 3 kilometres down the river. And you can see in September when there was the lights coming in because the sycamores don't get their leaves on. There's nothing underneath. And then the sycamores were poisoned, chemically ring barked underneath. And you can see that we've got an immediate response from the native trees that have been suppressed. And over here you can see the difference. Just taking out sycamore canopy makes a difference. So next one. So what we're wanting is we want big support. So we've done what we can with our sycamore slaughters and our pencils, and we have done a little bit with it. Which didn't work out very well. That's right.
Just letting you know it's about half an hour.
But we want a plan, and we don't want it done immediately because we don't want a huge amount of lies in there. But we need a plan, a 10-year plan to get out of the sycamores.
Okay. Now we hear this. We're half an hour behind time.
Yeah.
We hear this. We know. Honestly, we absolutely know about it. We know how much it's put pressure on you, Alice.
Well, it's 16 years.
Yeah.
I was thinking of sycamore slaughters.
I know. I agree with you. And this Pure Ale is relatively new to the game, but doesn't want to repeat Alice's experience of 16 years, do you? No. So, so we refer this to the staff for requesting, and this is terrific work that you've done here. And we will specifically ask them to read this because it's terrific work. And ask them, but I'm going to ask Keir what he wants to hear as well, and ask them to examine the issue with a view to develop a plan of action. Keir.
The Pigeon Bay program was substantially funded by the regional council through their pest management program. So one thing that would be good is if we make sure that when we go and ask for advice, we are touching base with the regional council because they were, I think it was 80% regional council funded, and then the other 20 came from private.
Yes, but it was organised by Diane Carter.
Yeah, so I think we should just make sure that we don't, because obviously CCC funds are pretty limited.
Yes, our main problem is that the arborists don't seem to be budget for this kind of weed control work. They've only got a budget to do health and safety work. So, Jonathan Henson's fantastic. He will take sycamores out.
Hang on, hun, we're honestly running out of time.
Yeah, and we've got one more thing to say.
Yeah.
I'll go to the next slide.
just. So we all coincide together. So
Yeah.
it's the PRZ and the Karatani Valley and the Clark, and we all coincide around the Wellington Bridge. So we wanted to do a planting with significant trees from the Kura Reserve coming down. And so look at the catchment of the Waihoro River. So all these little parks all over the place, they all feed it, you know, that this catchment stuff is really.
We should, it's really important you let us know officially that you're in action,
Yeah.
because it's so interesting and it adds weight to anything that we request. Adds weight.
So, yeah, so what we want in the end is we want the river, you know, we're full of fish and river.
Okay.
And so I can swimming and fishing in the river.
Are you connected to the river network? Yeah, good. Okay. So can we give Carolyn?
Breakthrough this
Only
year
known you
was
30
the
years.
fact that Heathcote is a site of ecological significance, as you know, it's in SNA. The council put out a tree policy and actually said that anywhere near an SNA, they will own adjacent, and within an SNA, they'll only plant native trees. And Tony Armstrong, to his credit, has understood this now, and he's planted a co-fi over in Ashgrove Terrace as the beginning of this. So you can only plant native trees adjacent to the river. And this was, I don't think council realised that, but that's what they decided.
That's very interesting information, Alice. No, that is really gripping. And
I think it's a help to get silos.
I'm going to ask people here to embed it in their souls.
Thank
And
you very much.
so I think we have to ask about regional council's involvement in this, because the point that was made by Keir is really valid. And we're bashing our head against brick walls to ask the council to do what the regional council should be doing. So thanks for that great point. All right, tell me what
I'd
we're
just
going.
like to thank you very much for the support of this group. And going right back to Julie Hewitt, I mean, she kept me died many years ago, and we've been so lucky with this community board. And Caroline's love of trees. Thank you, Caroline, very much.
Thank you.
It's been frustrating, but
I'm-
mine can't be before we die.
I think you're I think your frustration, especially around sycamores, is entirely justified. And if I were you, I'd be absolutely ropeable. I'd be in there with dynamite. Every time I walk in Ernley, and I do frequently, the sycamores drive me nuts just looking at them. So we've got to move on, guys. We really have. Look at the request that Amy's printed out.
We're involved with community groups in that briefing as well, so it's more of a.
Yes, yeah, and that's a good idea. But yes, that's a good idea. Make it broader than us, you mean, and have community groups. That's an excellent idea, including the river network as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So we
Great
have-
stuff, people. Great stuff. Don't give up. Smack the new board around. Come back and talk to us. Okay, Cheryl Ann, we're just about beside ourselves. I know that you'll be speedy, says me. It's good to see you too. This looks like a summing up here, doesn't it? We should have anticipated it, really.
I am of Cheryl Davids from Olympic College. I do community development in Eddington, and part of that role is manager of Olympic College. But community development is also outside of Olympic College, and city council. The city, Christchurch City Mission have now we're being restructured, and the Christchurch City Mission employee have taken over our employment. So it's still all under the same what it was in the past. It's just that they've restructured and called it differently. So it's all exactly the same, but yeah. So anyway, it wasn't an update. Sorry if I sent through the wrong information. It's not an update, although you can ask me questions if you like. What I'm here today to do is to thank you very much this morning for your service for the community, and also the council staff and the staff that we work with. You have no idea the impact of your support, and you know, you may not deal with me individually, and you may not know much about the college, But Addington as a community really, really does appreciate the support of this board. So I'm here to say thank you very much and wish you all the best. If you're standing again, I wish you all the best with your election campaign. And in particular, I want to thank you for the support that you've given us to get our new building. Well, I think all of you were part of that. And we've
No, not them, not them.
Just here.
Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, so we've had really great support. Things like getting a new building in Addington. For its Manuka Cottage is there for Addington and also the wider groups. And we have quite a few different people coming at different things, different times and different things. Also the support that we had over the cycleways, for instance, and the work that went on there. When we had a community consultation, the support that we had from the support was fantastic, and the staff, the Lincoln Road layout, the consultation that we did, it was, you know, it was okay. But you guys,
It actually wasn't.
Yeah. Also the Strengthening Communities Fund, you know, without that, without financial support, Manuka Cottage, Addington is a neighbourhood. You know, there's heaps of really, really good community groups in Addington, and we work collaboratively together and support one another. So without that, strengthening communities for each of us, you know, would be a problem. And also the discretionary funds that we receive, such as for the sheds at the back, so we can store stuff in. So thank you very much to this board. Also, I'd like to thank Carolyn Potter. Carolyn Potter. Carolyn, you have been a help and a blast and a good supporter of Manuka Cottage. I just love the way that you have you've just invested yourself into the different community groups and coming here and listening to others speak as well. The long support that you've given different communities over the years, and you're going to be missed, really, really missed. And so I thank you for AKA Tweedledum, standing alongside Tweedledee for community consultation and preparing for an Addington plan.
If there's any sucker around here who's going to take my place as Tweedledum, note that the name was Cheryl Ann's idea, that I get the Tweedledum and she got the Tweedledee. Go ahead.
So I don't know if that will continue or not. Also for sitting beside me, doing an oral submission at the City Council at the time, I think it was a representation review, where we fought to try and keep the existing boundaries and not lose the institutional knowledge and the community connections that we had across Sydenham, Addington and Waltham. Yeah. So thank you.
That was a loss.
But
it's coming back.
Yes.
Exactly.
I know. And also for being one of our volunteers delivering the Addington Times. So, you know, thank you very, very much. And
thank you. That's apart from that last bit, that was really interesting. It was good to see you. And thank you for coming to the board. And in fact, I wish you'd come before, because it's really good to have a catch up. And it just, when I saw you sitting here, I thought, my gosh, we haven't had Sherilyn at the board table for a while. But then there's been COVID. So it's been a pain. The whole thing's been a real pain. I expect to hear that the new board will hear much more from you in the coming year, because now that the building's entrenched and it's great. God, I don't know how you lasted that long waiting for it. But now that it's there and entrenched, I'd like this new board to hear a lot more from you. Yeah, good. And good. And the other thing is the new board includes suburbs right through to Sumner, which is extraordinary. So I think everybody has to fight for position. Yeah, I'm just saying that. Yeah. Any remarks on Sherilyn? Thank you. Thank you, Sherilyn. Admirably brief. Thank you. Thank you. So we're moving straight on to deputations by appointment. And for that reason, we're bringing forward item 10 to be associated with Andy talking to us about the lease variations. I can't even understand it. It doesn't look English to me, but you know, what's there? Hi, Andy. So you're going to make it relevant to, Yeah, relevant to,
PowerPoint, something like that, it's quite simple, really.
yeah, so we're going relevant to item 10, so we'll go straight to item 10 after you've briefed us, yeah.
Appreciate that, thank
Yeah.
you. For the record, my name is Andrew Maher. I'm the business owner of the Simon Taike, the amazing building up at the Cashmere Hill. We do cafe, restaurant, bar, and also a wedding and function centre.
Most of us would have been there, yeah.
3 years ago, we just officially started to open up. The first soft open that we did over 400 coffees from 10 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Almost killed my staff. We had 12 amazing staff. And by the time we fast forwarded to Christmas, we had 35 staff and we had forward workload of weddings, functions, and full bookings all the way up to the next year. By February, you can imagine, good old COVID came along and that pretty much decimated us. It decimated pretty much the whole hospitality industry, and we're on our knees. We are so blessed to have the community board, and especially Brian as well, who's here today, and from the council to support us during those times. It was a very, very scary situation. Our forward planning was showing great promise. By the time I think we got to November time, it was really looking quite hopeless, and we had to not wind it down. We had to slow the process down to keep our funds intact and to make sure that we had all of our staff who employed, because that's what we're into. We had lots of community people on our staff who are in the community, and we were going to keep their jobs. Eventually, it started to pick back up again, and by level 3 went back, and we went back to level 2. We were surviving. It was hard. It was difficult. We lost over $7,500 in that of food just because of that last snap lockdown. And again, the second one, we lost over $7,500 again. And that food just being wasted. Thankfully, we sent all that to the food banks, which was that went. But that has an impact on the business. Winter came, and of course, that was another impact that really caused lots of headaches. And the building, as you know, is a very large building, very drafty, wet, damp building. And with the current situation that it is, we have mold growing in many areas due to the poor air quality and water tightness of the building. Council has been amazing. Grant again and Maria who have helped try to get that building watertight, and it's been an ongoing issue. And there's 2 times when we've had to close due to the fact that it was so cold and it's so wet, regardless of how much heating we put on. It got to a toll around, I think it was probably July, August last year, when our power bill came in for 1 month and it was over $4,800. Grant Carney gave us a couple of engineers to come and investigate, and it's actually better just to keep the window all open at the outside and the temperature to get the place up. It's ridiculous, there's so much heat. So we had to, again, as like every other business did in this area, and hospitality had to adapt, and we then turned and flipped ourselves upside down. So instead of having a restaurant, a cafe, and bar upstairs, we put it downstairs into a small dungeon bar. That has actually worked really well. Unfortunately, when we got to the red traffic light system again, red traffic light system, hospitality industry basically said red is dead, and of course that again impacted us greatly. We lost a lot of staff, a lot of good staff. However, we've been clinging on by the skin of our teeth, waiting for the moment that finally arrived 2 days ago when we're told that the mandates were stopping. We don't have to wear masks anymore. That's great, because now our plan is to grow. I've spoken to the council, I've spoken to tourism industries, and they're confident, quite confident by October and November this year, we'll start seeing an increase in foot traffic tourist-wise. It won't be pre-pandemic, unfortunately, for at least another couple of years, but they reckon the hospitality industry is going to be growing. It's going to grow in at great rates of knots. Yeah, our plan is to go back to how we were pre-pandemic, but we need to do it slowly and surely and be wise about how we invest our money. We have some money ring-fenced, and we need part of the approval today, which we need, is that further investment so we can plan for the summer period and our next cold winter period and our next big large summer, which we believe is going to knock our socks off.
Your frankness is admirable, and we very much appreciate it. We're shocked. I think I speak to all the board that the reality of providers like you sometimes doesn't hit us ordinary people at all. We don't understand the business, you know. So you speaking to us in this way, knowing that there's lots of businesses in your position, is a salutary lesson to us, to be having had more thought about you. We remember when you got the lease and when you opened the building, and we've all been to your building. Yeah, and we've all been there. But what you've said to us is we're grateful to hear, because we do need to hear that. And thank you for your frankness. Anybody want to ask? Yeah, Tim?
Thank you. We like in the industries, both the tourism and events industry, and absolutely market, leading the front centre. Just so no question first, but just a question I have is these are like minimal, so when it improves, we'll be expanding, obviously.
Absolutely. So when we first, that's a great question, thanks for that. So to the answer to that, when we first opened, we were 7 days a week. We were open 7:30 in the morning, and some nights we weren't closing until in the morning, cleaning out. We've had to, again, using that shocking word, adapt and pivot. We've done that many, many times to try and keep this business afloat. We are not in debt by any means of imagination. We haven't had to remortgage our houses or anything like that. A lot of other hospitality owners around this country have, and they're in dire straits. Thankfully, we're still pretty good. We've managed it properly, but it has meant lots of sacrifices to myself and my family and friends and my staff. And that's the hardest thing, to see when my staff having to go crying most of the time. But how I see it, and our forward plan, our long-term goal is to go back to how we were, because I tell you what, we could do 7 days a week quite easy. But at the moment, balancing what we have at the moment, winter times with that price of electricity is near impossible. That pretty much, if you base your revenue on what you want to make, you want 33% needs to be staff, 33% is your overheads, 33% is your food costs, and then whatever's left, 1%, you need to balance that out, is profit. And at the moment, with the power, it was actually taken up to 55–60% of some of the profits in the winter time. However, we still needed to have service, and many more people coming in during the day. And the elder generation, they were still saying it's so cold in this building, it's unbelievable. It's not good enough, and we were getting bad reviews saying the building was freezing cold. We had underfloor heating on, we had gas fires on, we had big heaters on, which the council can't even provide for us. But yet it's still costing us a lot of money to heat. So we did have to adapt, and that's one of the reasons why we had to go downstairs.
Okay, it's really good to have heard all of that, and we needed to hear it, and we're grateful for you coming here and being so frank. And it is a lovely building, but it is, as you pointed out, it's really complex in its needs, which you have to provide.
It's an old girl.
I love
it to pieces. And John L was very nice.
Yeah.
So I've spoken to him many times, he comes in all the time. Harry L is a hero of mine, and yeah, I don't want to see that building go back to how it was 10 years ago.
And contrary to what the country thinks, because all our weather reports are Auckland based, it seems to me, it's been a bloody awful winter in Christchurch. It's been cold, it's been damp, and the rain like last night has been unpredictable. Thank you for that. And we'll take the item number 10 now that we've heard. Does anybody else want to say anything?
No,
Yeah. So we're taking, thank you for that.
And appreciate the board for all your assistance for us.
No, we appreciate you. We need that building used. Item 10, and Grant, are you going, where are you? Good on you. Yes.
I've got nothing to say.
You didn't need to, eh?
Sum up the situation, and I'd just like to say my report's read, but if you've got any other questions.
It was quite brave of him to be so frank, actually. Yeah, and it's very good. It's very good to have heard, and it's very good to have heard actually from a retailer. It did this board good to hear that. Tim, and is it the other way around? Tim moved, and you're second. Sorry, Lee second.
Thank you for being so, Indian, and it's a, we all know it's an old historic building, many old buildings. you know, to be honest.
Questions. Yeah. Okay.
Andy alluded to the fact that we've had a couple of engineers look at it. Had a couple of engineers look at this, but is there a? Yeah, so because we've got a eco consultant at council, is there anything else we can do? I just think we should explore every option we can to lower the operational costs. If we can. So if there's anything else we can do, can we?
Yeah, so we're just looking at parks, so as the, they've got budgets and long-term budgets for it. I guess if it was a building that was, it is a building improvement, so I guess the board just like that, can't they? I'd like to see those issues addressed. It's balancing modern expectations of hospitality and businesses, and see with the historic building that it's been repaired, but it still has some intrinsic issues with.
My preference would be not to put that in the resolution, only because I think the council has been, from the sounds of it, quite imaginative in the way it's tried to address the issues. But an issue think otherwise, that we could say, I don't know how to phrase it, like
Staff working with Andy.
I'd like to support and thank staff for the way they're working with Andy and look to see if they. I'd like a number 5, which said support and thank staff for the work that they've. But I actually agree with you on this. I'd like to thank staff for the imagination and effort that they've gone into supporting the continued lease and the viability of the lease. Actually, I'd like to put that in there because I think it's been hard work for you as well. It's very emotionally hard for the person who's the leaseholder too. And we trust you to have thought of all the things that may well be looked at in parks. But if you think they need a reminder, do you think they need a reminder?
Ultimately, I think Andy's come up with the best way,
Through it.
To run within the confines of the building.
Yeah.
Everything else is going to be conduit money and
Yeah.
to do those things. So
Yeah. So you think that everything's been thought of and that we don't actually need to add that, but we'd like to thank the staff. Yeah. Okay. But I'd personally like to thank staff because they've clearly worked in cooperation with him and that's kept that building open. Mel.
I was going to suggest that maybe Andy could think about coming to council for the next budget round and talk to councillors because I think that councillors, you know, for looking at more money for the building, because it would be the way to achieve that, to get more budget for it. And I think councillors of all walks of life would probably listen.
I think that's an excellent idea because Andy spoke very well and fairly. He didn't talk exclusively about his embarrassment, you know, his the problems. He talked fairly about the council and fairly about the situation. And I think that would go down well with council. I think Mel's got a good idea there.
Through you, Madam Chair. I mean, one of the main functions of a community board is to advocate, and I would suggest that, you know, it would assist.
If we went with them.
It would assist the council and if the board put its advocacy role in.
Yep.
If that was a
Good idea, Grace. I would trust that
you chose to do.
if the board members here could remember to recommend that the board chair or deputy chair or whoever goes with the person to the committee, because I think that would be really good. Did you hear that, Andy? So that you'd come back to the board and say, can whichever person who's appropriate come with me? Yeah. Yeah. The board submission. Yeah.
Another option or an additional point is you could today include in your resolution that you will consider this item, including this item in your annual plan submission. So then when it comes time for you to be making your submission, you can, you know, have that in front of you.
Okay. Do we need a mover for that to add it to the resolution, don't we? This will be number, hang on, I'm just looking at the resolutions. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, we've added a 5 and 6. do we recommend or just say, note that this, hang on, that this being, that note that the board will consider including this issue in the annual plan discussions.
Yeah.
In the annual plan discussions with council.
So yeah, there are just two new points in that, the agreeing to consider including funding for sign of the talking heat in the board's annual plan submission, and then just noting your thanks for staff.
Yeah, it's good, really good. Now, we don't need to remove these as amendments. We can add them and make and move the whole resolution, can't we? Yeah, that's good. Anything else, people? Are you happy with that? Yeah. And thank you to you too. You've obviously worked really well with Andy, and Andy's obviously worked really well with you. It's great to have that as an example before the board. It's perfect, actually, that people work so hard on the issue. I'm moving the whole resolution. We've got a mover, and seconder. So it's on the table. Is there any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions, carried. Thank you very much. That was salutary. Okay, and so we're on back to number 7, Huntsbury Ave. Proposed no stopping restrictions. Is Tony here? Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, go for it. I need. Did you notice the way he put it? Refocus. I'm going to get another cup of coffee too.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea. Actually, I'm only trying to keep it rolling for you guys. Yes, please. I'm going to tip this out. Oh, thank you. Yes, please. Yeah. And a heap teaspoon, if that's all right, Grace. Thank you.
Just before Tony comes up, we have the last deputation about Huntsbury Ave. Malcolm.
Oh, we do too.
Yeah.
Malcolm,
we
that's
come
you,
back,
isn't it? Okay, do you want to get yourself a coffee, or are you happy to come up? Okay. Sorry about the break, but I think people needed it actually. It's been non-stop. Yeah. I would have missed that, so I'm really glad that my grandchild is performing. Are you ready after that, Tony? You ready after that? It's now the time I discuss my street with you and offer bribes. Neville. There's nothing more boring than Neville Street in Spreydon. God almighty. No, I actually like my street. It's full of we've got a gang at one end. We've got people who boom through at 150k once a day. Oh no, it's interesting. I've got great neighbours. Jeepers, you should hear them when they go through. It makes your heart stop. Boom.
When I was years and years ago, had the same problem, and so he wandered out one night, got out of his shoes, and he like one, wandered out, he's full like fork long one, and flying on the street, and he just was standing behind a car and just threw it out on the road. But he was about twice my size, and yeah. And then all he did was pick up the pistol and went back to bed. He said, "Never did it again." Yeah, the guys are going up and down the street, you know, like shooting a car or something.
We can do that if you're scary looking.
Exactly, yeah.
They've never hardly ever gone up and down the street. There was one pinched car that went up and down the street, and there were two cops in the street, one end and one the other end, and they were conversing, and I got the number plate and gave it to the cop, and cop said it's the wrong number plate. Turned out the number plate had been pinched and was put on. Yeah.
They even make their own ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Someone showed a photo of one with a made up one yesterday.
Yeah.
Who had it?
The police. Yeah.
Oh, here.
My friend Jen Halliday, she lives above the quarry in one of those little narrow streets above the quarry. She lives miles up one of these, miles up one of those crooked little lanes above the quarry, and they came up and swapped her number plates.
Yeah.
They pinched them.
Well, they used to do it at car side as well. The car side, yeah, it's cameras and down the roads as well. So they, yeah. So.
Are we all back? Okay, so, hang on, I've just got to get my things. Okay.
You're on your own, mate.
Deputation is Malcolm Buchanan.
Thank you.
Huntsbury Ave, proposed no stopping restrictions, item 7. Go ahead.
Keep this really quick.
Good on you.
After the speaker, I read the council report came out after that, and it's obviously in favour. So yeah, I'm not I live at the top of Huntsbury Ave, so every time I drive up there with a trailer, I can't turn around because always someone's parking. It is the only place to turn around.
You're talking about where the bus turns round.
No,
Yeah, right at the top. Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there's rubbish trucks turning
Yeah.
around there, and yeah, there's a lot of space to go up. So I guess that's so important to me. So I'm really speaking because I'm really keen to see this happen. I expressed concerns about this when Tussock Hill Waihoro was going through its consent process. So it was considered as part of that because they had a lot of overflow, will do that overflow parking on the street. So the council at the time apparently undertook to do their work when the consent was issued, but I believe there was a staff change and that never happened. To that extent, the council saying, I acknowledge the concern that overflow parking may occur at block the area, hence my recommendation that no parking like that to paint no parking lines. Council has since confirmed that they will paint no parking lines within the cul-de-sac to stop people parking in the moving area at such time that consent is granted. As such, this should address the concern submitted. That was in 2019, so it hasn't been yet. I just hope that it happens this time. It is a problem, especially when in the daytime there's a lot of walkers, dog walkers, runners, cyclists, and they all are all over the road in that area. And so when you're trying to move that,
It's only 3 years. I don't know what you're moaning about. No, I'm joking. Because I went up there, strangely enough, with a funeral director. They obviously know everywhere. And my top is where the bus turns around, because that's where I walked. I used to go up the track, you know.
Yeah.
And but now you guys are way up there. It's like being on top of the world. It's astonishing. When I went up there and looked around, I was astonished. It's really, it behoves everyone to go up there, because people who don't live in Christchurch and imagine that Christchurch is all flat, it's quite astonishing being up there. Thank you for coming.
That's okay.
And you'll sit there with bated breath, because it's bound to cause a huge argument here. Thank you, Malcolm. Oh, sorry. Did anybody want to ask any questions? My apologies for that. The officer recommendation is item 2.
You want to ask Tony to come up?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to. So that's the issue that is at hand, and we understand it. Tony, would you like to come up? Thank you. Has he done his work, your work for you?
Yeah, yes. Yes, so it's we're about mobility and also safety. Cyclists and pedestrians coming off the hill. Yeah, so, there were a few things that came up during consultation, which is sort of further down the hill, which is still looking at, so that signage and earlier in the year, about safety here and just the other ones. So that's something that will still be coming.
Okay.
That did come up again in this consultation. So
I sort of didn't know that there was so much traffic up there. I should have thought that through when I've been up there. And I also didn't know the vineyard was so popular, you know, that there was traffic around there. So it's really interesting going up there, because the vertical nature of some of the buildings, etc., is just amazing. Yeah. And especially the walkers. Yeah, you're dead right. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Oh, are there any questions?
Somebody else.
Yeah.
Feel free to make
Okay.
my support.
Callum moved,
Yeah.
seconded, Kia. Is there any further questions you want to ask Tony? Any further discussion? All those in favour of the resolution as described in paragraph 2, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, abstentions carried. Thanks, Tony. Are you the next item? Oh, right. I can't understand why my street isn't on your agenda. If it's this easy.
Last chance to call ranking.
Okay. You explain first.
Yeah, just briefly, so this is Heathcote Road around Cashmere Primary School, yellow lines at 3 different locations, just to improve various safety issues with the access to the driveway. There's no opposition, but there was a case that the lines went across the whole driveway between 35 and
Thanks. Thanks. I have to say, I'm really disappointed about the is it Whakakotahi not allowing the ban on the U-turn. I mean, that's a real thing for that community, is the U-turn, especially. I know.
Yeah, unless we put a meter, sort of medium down.
I still think it's a real issue up there. Tim?
We walked this, we did it with you, and I was like, this is great, but you're coming through about what it's taken us how many years for them to agree with the council staff to put 30 Ks in schools. It should be law that no U-turns become a school irrelevant when you go. There'll be another 10 years with them. They're about 30 years behind the rest of the law anyway. But yeah, thank you so much for this. We all walked it, so I'm gonna get the number.
Yeah. Yes, I wish there was more, but there isn't. Right, we've got the mover and the seconder. Are there any other questions of Tony? Sorry. Yeah. Oh, what did I have a mover? No, I didn't. Tim moved and Lee seconded. No further discussion. All those in favour and say aye. All those against say no. The ayes have it. Thank you. And we go on to Faraday Street, which I didn't know where it was. And I looked it up. And he's a physics genius. How come we've got a street named after a physics genius?
That's where Orion Transformer is. Someone obviously thought they were being very clever because there's the Orion had a site there. And
Yeah, that's right.
someone thought they were being.
Yeah.
In Elephant and Castle, there's the Faraday Memorial, which is just a giant substation that they painted for aluminium. Yeah.
You smart man, because I looked it up. And you smart man making that connection. Did you hear that? It's interesting, hey? The connection, yeah. That's so good. I'm glad you said that. The recommendations are there. Para 2, any comments?
No, just that this is quite a critical one for the water pump station.
Yeah.
It's a very narrow road, and we'll also be putting the street sign up. There's not even a street name there.
No, I didn't think there was, because I didn't know what it was called. When I looked it up, I knew where it was, but I didn't know that it was called Faraday. Yeah.
Yes, I consulted with all the businesses around here. I didn't get any responses back.
Isn't it interesting? These small things mean quite a lot, don't they? Yep. Thank you, Tony. Can I have a mover, please? Callum, seconder. Thank you, Mel. I was looking at you, so it's Mel. Any further discussion? All those in favour of the resolution as recommended, say aye.
Aye.
Against, abstentions carried. Thank you, Tony. And we're going to item 11. Summer with your neighbours. When I read this, I was just about to have a moan, Heather, because I think we should know where it is and who's doing it. And then I got your back bit, which is unreadable. But I guess is it readable on the computers?
Yeah.
Have you got any comments that are not rude and are deeply respectful, Heather?
So I'm just in case anybody's wondering, in comparison to last year's Summer with Your Neighbours. So last year we got 49 applications, including 12 for groups. And due to COVID, only 14 of those actually took place, and only 5 of the groups actually took place. So there's a big difference in the number that has come through this year, which may be connected, may not. But just letting you know so out of the 3,535 you allocated last year to Summer with Your Neighbours, only 1,513 was actually paid back out from the university. So other than that, I'm taking the report as read. The only thing which, if anyone has question, is there's one which there's a suggestion not to include as in a grant for Someone with Your Neighbours, which is the Cashmere Club, and following a visit from staff, one of the Cashmere Club is much bigger event than a neighbourhood event, and the spring garden will be going ahead anyway, apparently. So it's a much bigger event took place last year, I think it was as well. So if there's any other questions, and I'm happy to questions, otherwise I'll take what is read.
So Cashmere won't be getting. I feel as though we're kicking them when they're down.
They don't satisfy the criteria for neighbourhood.
No, I understand that. Tim?
Maybe they can come to some in a different way. Which would be appropriate, I think, to strengthen that link. So
Get some dialogue.
yeah.
Staff have been out to have conversations.
Well, it sounds as though we're going there for the library. Yeah. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Callum? Yes, a seconder. Thank you, Chair. Any further discussion? Understanding the staff's discussion. I'm sure it'll come back. We've always had the largest application numbers, haven't we?
So down right across the city, but it's also opened earlier as well due to the elections and everything.
Yeah.
So it had a slightly earlier opening.
Yeah.
Also that perhaps a lot of the follow-up work, which when you would have done, perhaps didn't necessarily get done. But we've done the best that we can.
Okay. Well, yeah, exactly. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions, carried. Thank you. Discretionary Response Fund. Hello, Watanabe, traitor.
The idea is not to get caught.
I'm not going to discuss it at this meeting. I'll tell you afterwards, but just take it for granted. Traitor. Hello, Watanabe.
Yeah, just nothing much to say about this one. Probably just highlight one of my colleagues did the bulk of this money for this report, and yeah, through that figured out where the participants were coming from. So about 30% of sequence dancing club coming from Spreydon-Cashmere-Heathcote. It's coming to us as well. Not much to say about the group just yet. They need to give that 1 or 2 times a month, and yeah, just a bulk coin donation for coffee and biscuits, and that is one bit of support towards school, so they can keep going. Obviously, like any other groups, COVID was a bit of hindrance, but yeah, trying to build on these.
I love the idea of sequence dancing, and I love the idea of contributing to it, and I think the idea of it being older persons as well is really cool. But when an organisation is getting support from 3 wards or more, doesn't it become metro?
3 is acting more than 3.
Okay, okay. More, I thought it was 3, but I'm not moaning about this. I mean, it's not a lot of money, is it? And it supports a group of people who are often, sometimes, sorry, an age group that's often has lonely people in it. Yeah.
I'll just raise it with a sorry.
Yeah.
The other community boards have given a little bit more, so I don't know if you can talk to that. Just checking that too. Was sufficient.
Yeah, just based on
Would you want to add to it?
Not necessarily, but I just wanted to understand the logic.
Yeah, I'm glad of the connection with them actually. You know, and if you know, if you could encourage the person who might be next year considering the recommendation, you know, that we think that it's great sequence dancing.
Great to build a relationship.
Yeah, yeah. So having said that, a mover and a seconder, Lee, and seconded
I was going to ask about whether 2,000 people.
two,
Oh,
200.
the-
200.
well, it says it was, the company said $2,000 funding to support the ball hire. Was it from? just another-
that might be from Bell, that might be from Papua New Guinea, is it?
No. The top line of assisted funding in that job.
Yeah, I think that was from council, but it runs out at the end of this year. That's what I think.
Sorry,
Well, we've got a mover and a seconder. I think we have, haven't we, Lee and Callum? Is that all right with everybody? Any further questions? All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions, carried. And now we're on to Suburb Rugby Club and Shape Your Place Toolkit. This may need just a sentence or two to explain it. If you'd like to go ahead, Watanabe.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, Shape Your Place Toolkit is a fund that is sort of ring-fenced within discretionary response funding, sort of about helping communities place, make, or utilise what they have in their community. And the reason that we looked at it for this one is it's to support suburbs on how they can operate Coronation Hall to make sure that they obviously able to run it, which they can, as well as how can they explore other income avenues, as well as make sure that the community is able to use it in a way that's meaningful for the community. So it meets the criteria for Shape the Place, and it's towards some consultancy fees. Operations.
I've always been concerned that suburbs hasn't had what might not have the appropriate resourcing over a period of several years and keeping and maintaining Coronation Hall. I want to make sure that the council and the repair of Coronation Hall, first of all, doesn't hand them a lemon. And secondly, suburbs, the brave and honourable suburbs, has turned down the use of alcohol on its premises. And this means that they lose a funding source that every other sports club in the country uses. I'd like to move it from the chair. I'd be glad to express my support for suburbs. I think it's been pretty rough, the repair of this building. I think the process has been rough as well. And I think that they're a brave club. And I really hope that they can survive on this. I think the board should keep a close eye on it over the next term and be supportive of the group, because I just don't think it's easy, this being the late repair, B, the fact that the repair is going to cost a lot more money because of the waiting time that's occurred and the damage that's been done by pigeons and so on, and C, the fact that they haven't got the kinds of funding that other clubs have because of their banned alcohol. I think they deserve our support, and I hope you keep a close eye on the beggars. So I move from the chair, and we need a seconder. Callum, yeah. Any further questions you want to ask? Lee, you got it's difficult, isn't it?
No, you said
Yeah. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions, carried. And can you ask staff to come back to the board reporting on what they've found, like identifying what they've found and giving us some reassurance in the future? That would be great, Watanabe.
One of my issues as well is that get the group that are doing that.
That's what I mean, so that we can have an understanding of what kind of structures in place for suburbs and keep an eye on the whole thing. Thank you, Watanabe. That would be great. Thanks very much. And 14, board plan. Final monitoring report.
So that's
Stop shaking heads over there. Is nobody coming up?
That's actually me.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know we're,
Yeah.
I know we're.
God knows what she's spending.
I know we're very pressed for time, so I'll be very brief, but I think, you know, this is the end of the term, so it's worthwhile just quickly reflecting on what you've achieved, because when you go through each of your priorities, you really have achieved quite a bit out of them. So the first one there, that's totally completed. Those two big infrastructure projects are done. The integrated cycle network in Spreydon-Cashmere, you were really successful in bringing forward two big things, the new cycleway to Westmoreland and also the Selwyn Street master plan.
Which is fantastic at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's
Well, I can circulate them around. Oh, you have it. Okay.
it's just the Selwyn Street is just a shambles at the moment because of so much work.
Yeah, so those two things are brought forward, you know, quite significantly. So I think you can feel quite proud of that. Obviously, the Innovating Streets projects as well.
Not finished though.
Not finished, one of them, unfortunately. The Hoonhay Community Center, we just heard all about that from Jenny this morning. And of course, she did mention that the funding for the building isn't confirmed yet, but there should be an update on that quite soon. And Heather is in close contact with Jenny, so she'll be keeping her in the loop, and we will keep you in the loop on that.
I don't think we'd have added a storage shed and Wi-Fi if we were going to dump them, would we? No.
The adult playground, there was a feasibility study done on that, and then of course that's been a bit delayed just due to the resourcing issues with the contractor. So that one is a bit in a holding stage at the moment.
I expect 100% support from the
Yeah.
board in the future.
Yeah. The Dyer's Pass area, that major project that's happening right now, which is significantly improving the safety of the road. The intersection down at the end of Colombo Street is on budget to be done in 2024, so that's huge. And then of course Hoonhay Park, that's budgeted in 2025, and I think early next term you're going to get a briefing on that. There's
I'd
an
like to
update
thank
on
the
that coming.
councillors for that, because you shunted for that in the discussions, and I didn't think we had much of a shot of getting Mathers Park brought up to speed, you know, and it's been such a blank space for a long time. I'm delighted with, I think the councillors owe a vote of thanks for that.
Yeah, so I think, you know, when you're just going through the day-to-day, it's easy to lose sight of all the things that have really been accomplished. And when you go through them like this, you know, all of your priorities you've either completed or made significant progress on. So I think that's something that you can enjoy your achievements on that. And then, of course, the new board next term, there's still more to be done.
Okay,
So that's it for
and
that.
do we move?
You can just move to receive it.
Everyone concentrates on the negative, you know, but actually we do it quite a lot.
I know, and some of it is just a struggle over years before you get the result that you need, and it's good to, and lots of people would be the first to moan if the budget wasn't thrashed around, you know, like a fisticuffs, because that wouldn't be appropriate to pass things willy-nilly either.
Well, that's what I've got now to go to.
So it's just moving to receive the.
Yeah. I'll move this, the last one. I'll move to receive the information in the community board's report. And you're second. Well done, you. Any discussion? Other than to thank the staff and thank the staff for their thoroughness and support over the last year as well. If we can add that, please. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions carried. I'd just like to point out just in there, my daughter Georgia, who arrived at 2:30 a.m. this morning, and Juno, Agatha, Carolyn, Borshman. What a bloody mouthful, the poor child. But there she is. Don't you think Agatha Carolyn is wonderful? And Juno is the goddess of women. And there she is. And she's pretty much a goddess for how good she's been.
We've almost finished.
We have finished, haven't we?
No, not quite.
Oh, what?
There's also.
Members exchange. I always say that.
There's a
I
couple
always
more,
say that.
couple more reports as well.
Oh, that's right. I didn't move that. I'm so sorry. I thought I'm always saying at the end like that we've done it. Hang on. Let me get there. Alteration to the resolution, yeah. Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair. Moved by Lee, seconded by Kier. All those in favour, please say aye. Carried. And area report, mover and seconder required. We done that? No, you and me have moved it. Yeah, we've done that. Elected members.
No, you haven't done the area report.
Yes, we did. I moved, he seconded.
That was about the board plan.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Good
yes,
God.
It was separate.
Area report. I'll move, you second. Again, all those in favour, please say aye. Against, abstentions carried. Gosh. And elected members information exchange, starting with you, Lee. Yeah. Tim.
I've got nothing to update. Thank you everyone for
Jeepers, that's absolutely brand new. Wonderful. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've got a few wee things. Last Friday, I went to Hoonhay Park with Jenny and Bernie and Alistair, and then Russell, who does work in the park, and we met with Chad, who is Holly's boss or manager or whatever. And they're really working with him to make improvements happening and allowing him to do all the work that he enjoys doing there, basically. And they also informed us that all the pathways in the park are going to be upgraded, which was good because a complaint had come through from a woman about it. So I think that's pretty good progress when normally that sort of stuff takes forever. There was the Hoonhay network meeting last week, and I can't really recall anything major anyone particularly brought up, but I did let them know about the care crossing at Raleigh School, and they all clapped. So that was great. And just to follow on from the lilies in Barrington Park that was in the garden or in the pathway, you know how we've talked about it? I saw them the other day, so we actually went and it's because there's a pedestrian crossing painted, and then it's sort of, you have to walk across a garden to get to the playground, you know, by the coming from Mosaics. And that's where those lilies are planted, so people are walking on top of them because it's a garden and should be a path. But I mean, anyway,
it's that car park and associated is just difficult.
Yeah,
and not renovated as it should have been years ago.
And then last thing was just to bring up, because we said we would say this at the candidates meeting last week. Helen was speaking, and there was he did a mihi, and we had someone from the audience who heckled him and told him to speak in English. And I was someone who attends meetings in this building of staff, and we've just mentioned to staff to try to include a bit more te reo as a right with meetings, whether elected members are present or not, to try and educate our community about how we have more than one official language in our country.
And it's Maori Language Week this week.
Amen.
I'll go last.
So the only one I had was I attended the Summerfield Residents Association AGM on Monday night, which was on. And I just, I think they had a bit of short notice piecing it together. Certainly wasn't as well attended as the one last year. So maybe, I guess, something for the board is probably just continuing to work with and supporting that RA. And as we can be really engaged community. So, yeah.
You're right about that. It is an active community.
Two quick. Actually, one quick thing for me. I just sent a bit of correspondence with Te Whanatahi about their requests for speed changes at on Wellington Street. I think it would be really valuable if we took any opportunity we can to build a relationship with that school. So I think even if it's an issue where they come to us and the problem's already solved, it would be awesome if we could invite them to come and speak. I'm sure that they will have more issues than just that. And, you know, I'm thinking about like the signage. I spoke to a teacher from that school recently, and they were interested in more clear signage on the roads about the school being there. Thinking about, you know, the disposal of the old Centennial Ball sites would probably be of interest to them. So I think just having a relationship with that school for the new board would be really, really cool. If they could take an opportunity.
I phoned them at least on many occasions. They've never returned my calls, and they asked for funding once or twice, I think. But it's been disappointing not being able to access them. And at one stage, the principal said, "Of course, I'll return your call," and never did. I'm not saying that that's the situation now. It'd be just great to have a conversation with them, but we've never managed it.
Could we, with regards to the speed, now that what have changed the attitude with regards to, so could we make that raise that with this principal staff and make them next? Because that's the type of school that really does need that 30K. It's a big street, wide street, and we end up with that.
Yeah, I believe that is in the works.
Okay.
That is one of the, all the schools,
Yeah,
including
yeah,
that
yeah.
one.
But
Yeah. In terms of prioritizing it, you mean?
So I think it'd be good to sort of start and look at the priority to schools compared to our priority maybe, and just get those linked so we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to say something embarrassing before I talk, are you?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Caroline, on behalf of your peers, you talked about exceptional service earlier. That embodies you. You've given 15 years of service to this community board, but yours has been a life of service. I can't think of anybody more apt to have been a human rights commissioner. You've just given and given throughout your life as a JP. You've been completely embraced by the communities of Spreydon-Cashmere. A lot of the mana this community board has got is your mana that you've earned for us, and then you've mentored, whether you know it or not, you've mentored a lot of us along the way, and we are so appreciative of what you've done for all of us. You've made all the people in the community that come to this board feel welcome, and it's for you. It's about equity. It's about social justice. And I've never seen you politic either. You always make the right decisions, and you're integral to what your thoughts and beliefs are. I just think that is so remarkable in these days. It was really nice to see Leanne give the same, Leanne talk about this last week as well. I could go on and on, but
please don't.
Thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being you. Thank you. You've been integral to your own beliefs and for the stewardship you've shown us. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you. I thank you for your kindness. I talk too much, so you could have added that just to add a little bit of balance.
Stoic to a fault. I forgot to say stoic to a fault.
I just want to mention two things. The things that have preoccupied me over the 15 years and that I have tried to engage with constantly, and have probably made not much room or effort, and probably made not a great deal of change, and have and the lack of progress I've made is a little bit distressing, and they are disability issues of accessibility. No matter how often you mention it, there's always something being built or existing which is not disability accessible, and it's just not a constant in people's minds. And I thought I'd won after years and years and years of wanting disability on the project list, and they changed it to accessibility, and staff don't know what it means, So I just hope that this board, because it got to the stage where this board automatically filled in for me if I forgot to ask a disability question. I hope this board in the future maintains the priority on disability. And then the second thing is the urban forest, which drives me nuts. It should be forest and bush, because the word forest in New Zealand terms refers to superannuation pine planting, and bush refers to native planting, not planting, native, indigenous species. We're the worst. We have 0.5% of the Canterbury Plains have native trees. We have the fewest number of diversity of birds than any city in New Zealand, and it's disgraceful. It's just disgraceful. And we've made not a lot of progress. When I was wanting Ernley to be planted with native plantings on my first term in office, I took for granted actually that people would back me. The staff got in the curator from Hagley Park to point out to me that Ernley should only have exotic plantings. Thanks to Alice's efforts, that has changed, but without Alice, Lord knows what would have happened. So I just would love it if the board maintained a watchful brief on diversity of planting and cast a very critical eye over the urban forest. Make a submission. I mean, I will, I'm going to, but cast a critical eye on the policy when it finally reaches this board. It's been in the community, it's been with Alice Shanks for 6 months. We haven't been told that, but it has. Alice has had that policy for 6 months and it hasn't come to the board, and it was promised to come to the board, but it hasn't. And it's going to come to the board in the new term. And I hope you have a very hard look at it. And so apart from that, I've had such fun. And I did this at the City Council, I know I did, but exactly the same thing. But I've had so much fun. I couldn't imagine a better job for someone like me. It's just such fun meeting everybody that you meet and talking to everybody that you meet and having people sitting at that table telling us things we never knew. It's just exceptional connection with the community. It's just terrific. And working with council staff, especially the staff we've always had here. I like to remind people whenever I'm at a meeting to say the council staff are not separate from us. We are council staff, they are council staff, we are neighbours, they are members of the community, they pay rates. They are us. So don't go around saying council staff. It's not fair. 99% of council staff work with a great heart and truth in their souls, just like we do. And so I'd like to think that we combat that kind of prejudice and when they talk about bureaucrats, it drives me nuts. Bureaucrats are people sitting there making sure that we do things right. And I hope that we give bureaucrats a better name and our colleagues that are paid the same respect we give each other, which is not a lot on this board. Thank you very much for putting up with me. I've just had a great time. Thank you very much. Close the meeting. Kieran, Lee, I'm looking at you, mate. And incidentally, Lee, I don't want to sound patronising because I'm the worst. I've got the worst pronunciation, but that was bloody good this morning. The karakia.
Well,
and
don't put it
and from now on we've got to stand for karakia because Grace told us. Oh my God! No other reason. Grace told us. Finally, do you promise to keep singing the Waiata? Do you promise? You promise?
You can live stream and watch us.
Great, great. Thank you. It'll be a big shock for Heathcote. Certain right. Thank you very much. Okay.
We're going to have, we're just going to go down just for 15, 20 minutes, just have a